Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive in, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change the way you understand women, and more importantly, relationships. If you think you already know, I promise you don't. Not yet. Today, we're uncovering the top 7 female weaknesses every man must know before it's too late. These are truths almost no one talks about. The hidden patterns in female psychology that determine attraction, attention, and loyalty. Understand these, and you shift the entire dynamic in your favor. Let's start with the first weakness, a truth so few men recognize. They remain stuck chasing validation, unaware that they are walking straight into predictable patterns of female behavior. Women, just like men, have desires and fears, but their psychology is crafted in a way that often makes them vulnerable to certain triggers. The first weakness is emotional dependency on validation. Notice how she constantly seeks attention, likes, texts, or approval from people around her. This isn't just vanity. Deep down, most women crave reassurance that their choices, appearance, and decisions are correct. A man who understands this can subtly guide, influence, and secure her trust without overt manipulation. But most men fail because they respond emotionally rather than strategically. They argue, they demand, they overgive, and they unknowingly reinforce the very pattern that drains them. Here's the subtle truth. Her validation seeking is a power lever, not a flaw to mock. A man who sees it, who remains calm and in control, becomes magnetic. She unconsciously tests men repeatedly to see if they are reliable, stable, and confident. When you stop feeding the frantic need for constant approval and instead offer selective, meaningful recognition, she starts noticing the difference. This is not about coldness, it's about psychological positioning. You're no longer just another option. You become the man whose opinion actually matters, whose attention she craves rather than casually takes. I'm going to warn you, most men will never see this. They'll continue being reactive, falling into emotional traps, and wondering why she pulls away. But when you understand this weakness, you can begin to see patterns of attraction and submission in everyday interactions. Small shifts in your behavior create seismic changes in her perception of you. You don't have to be manipulative. You have to be aware, deliberate, and strategic. This one awareness alone separates the men who get results from the ones stuck wondering why she lost interest. Now, pay attention, because the next weaknesses build upon this. Every layer you understand, every hidden psychological trigger you recognize, magnifies your ability to command her attention without chasing, pleading, or overcompensating. This isn't about control in the toxic sense, it's about mastering the unspoken dynamics most men ignore. And once you grasp these, everything changes. The second weakness is her hidden fear of being alone, and most men completely misread it. Women, more than anything, fear isolation, not just physically, but emotionally and socially. This fear drives many of her decisions, often without her even realizing it. She may appear independent, strong, even untouchable, but underneath, there's a constant radar scanning for security, attention, and emotional availability. The mistake most men make is assuming she's choosing them freely, when in reality she's testing, gauging, and even manipulating to fill that fear-driven void. Here's the harsh truth. If you don't understand this weakness, you'll play her game blindly. She'll pull away, create tension, even flirt with the idea of someone else, not because she's malicious, but because her instinct tells her to ensure she's never alone. Men who respond with desperation, jealousy, or frantic attention only reinforce her behavior. They become predictable, easy to manipulate without even trying. But the man who understands this sees the pattern of fear and uses it strategically. Not to dominate, not to control, but to create stability and emotional leadership that she unconsciously craves. It's subtle. You don't confront it directly. You simply embody confidence, consistency, and calm. While she's scanning for someone who will not abandon her, you're demonstrating through behavior that you are that anchor. You stop reacting to her tests. You stop chasing approval. You stop over-communicating. And suddenly, she starts seeking your attention, reassurance, and approval. You shift from being just another man to the man whose presence reduces her anxiety without saying a single word. Most men fail here because they interpret her fear-driven behaviors as games, manipulation, or rejection. They take it personally, not realizing it's not about them, it's about her internal insecurities. Once you understand this, every pull away, every sudden distance, every quiet moment becomes predictable and manageable instead of frightening or confusing. You start seeing the invisible triggers that make her anxious, and instead of reacting, you lead with psychological certainty. This is why men who master this second weakness stand out instantly. While other men are caught up in emotional chaos, they are calm, consistent, and unshakable. And make no mistake, women are wired to notice this. Confidence paired with emotional stability is irresistible. It's the silent signal that says, I'm the safe choice, the man worth investing in emotionally. And here's the kicker. When you combine this understanding with the first weakness, the craving for validation, you start unlocking influence without force, attention without effort, and desire without desperation. The next weakness builds directly on this foundation. Ignore it, and you're just another man lost in her games. Understand it, and you begin to see the rules she's playing by that no one talks about. The third weakness every man must understand is her instinctive need for emotional storytelling. Most men think conversations with women are casual, light, surface level, maybe even fun. But the truth is, women unconsciously test men through stories, anecdotes, and emotional cues. Every story she shares is a window into her psychology, a subtle probe to see if you can handle, understand, and match her emotional wavelength. Fail to read it, and you immediately become forgettable, predictable, or even frustrating. Succeed, and you enter a zone most men never reach, a space where she feels truly understood, safe, and attracted. Here's the reality. She doesn't just want to be heard. She wants her emotions reflected, validated, and elevated. That doesn't mean agreeing blindly or spoiling her. It means being psychologically fluent, reading between the lines, and responding in a way that acknowledges her feelings without losing your authority. For example, when she complains about someone or shares a past hurt, most men respond either defensively, dismissively, or with empty advice. That triggers disconnection. But when you mirror the emotional undertone and respond with clarity and confidence, she unconsciously senses intelligence, reliability, and emotional strength. Suddenly, her stories become a magnet, pulling her closer to you. Most men completely miss this because they treat words as literal events rather than emotional tests. She isn't just talking. She's measuring your mental and emotional capacity and your ability to navigate her world without being swept away. This is why emotionally fluent men always appear more attractive. They're not perfect, they're perceptive, unshakable, and responsive in a way that subconsciously signals stability and dominance at the same time. Here's a subtle insight few men realize. The stories she shares are also her vulnerabilities disguised as casual conversation, and every vulnerability you respond to correctly creates trust, attraction, and influence. Do this consistently, and she starts associating you with emotional safety, excitement, and reliability all at once. The rare combination almost no man delivers. Ignoring this weakness keeps men trapped in generic, forgettable relationships where she's emotionally present, but he's invisible. Understanding it transforms everyday conversations into powerful psychological exchanges, giving you influence without manipulation, presence without pressure, and intimacy without dependency. Pay attention. Most men think attraction is about looks, status, or money. But the men who truly succeed with women master this emotional navigation. Once you can respond to her stories in a way that makes her feel understood, desired, and intrigued simultaneously, you step into a zone few men ever enter. A zone where she craves your presence and perspective more than anyone else's. The next weakness is even more subtle and dangerous for men who ignore it. Miss it, and you'll never fully understand what drives her decisions, loyalty, or desire. But grasp it, and you gain an invisible advantage in every interaction. The fourth weakness is her unconscious fear of being underestimated, and most men never recognize it. Women crave strength, decisiveness, and clarity in a man, but ironically, they also fear it. Why? Because deep down, many women are constantly assessing whether a man is truly capable of handling life's pressures, their emotions, and the unpredictable challenges that come with relationships. She watches, tests, and even pushes boundaries, not out of malice, but to see if you're worthy of her investment. Most men misinterpret this as nagging, resistance, or unpredictability. They take it personally, when in reality it's a psychological test designed to reveal competence, confidence, and resilience. Here's the hard truth. If you fail this test, even subtly, you immediately lose credibility. She doesn't consciously think he's weak. Instead, she feels an intuitive imbalance, a subconscious alarm signaling that you might not be the man she can rely on long term. That's when attraction fades, patience dwindles, and her attention starts slipping towards someone who demonstrates that stability and authority she craves. The key is not to dominate or overpower, it's to consistently display competence and calm decisiveness. Women are acutely sensitive to how men handle stress, uncertainty, and confrontation. Small moments reveal far more than grand gestures. When you respond thoughtfully under pressure, when you make decisions confidently without over-explaining, and when you stand firm without being rigid, you trigger her subconscious respect. That respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, emotional connection, desire, and loyalty crumble. Most men overlook the subtle ways they undermine themselves. Hesitation, insecurity, over-explaining, or arguing over trivial matters signals weakness, even if they're strong in other areas of life. Women notice, and it quietly erodes their interest. But a man who understands this weakness uses controlled assertiveness and strategic calm to establish himself as someone who can carry weight in her world. Suddenly, she feels secure and drawn to you, not because you're loud or aggressive, but because your competence reassures her at a deep, instinctual level. Here's the kicker. Mastering this weakness isn't about perfection. It's about awareness and intentionality. Every interaction becomes a subtle dance of demonstrating reliability, strength, and emotional intelligence. Women crave men who can balance decisiveness with sensitivity, confidence with restraint. When you grasp this, you step into a rare zone where she sees you as exceptional, irreplaceable, and psychologically magnetic. The fifth weakness builds on this foundation, and missing it can undo everything you've already mastered. Understand it, and you gain a level of influence over her attraction that most men only dream about. The fifth weakness is her hidden craving for unpredictability, and this is where most men completely fail to understand female psychology. Women, even the most seemingly stable and rational, have a deep, instinctual pull toward men who can surprise them, who break monotony without creating chaos. They are wired to seek excitement, novelty, and emotional stimulation, but most men misunderstand this entirely. They think consistency means boring repetition, stability means complacency, and security means giving in to routine. When a man fails to balance reliability with unpredictability, he becomes invisible, predictable, and ultimately forgettable. Here's the critical insight. Unpredictability isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about creating an aura of intrigue and challenge. Small, subtle variations in behavior, mood, or perspective trigger curiosity. Women notice when a man has depth, complexity, or layers that aren't immediately apparent. They're instinctively drawn to mystery, not confusion, because mystery implies independence, strength, and self-possession, all qualities that signal high value. Men who misunderstand this try too hard to please or over-explain every action, inadvertently removing the spark they think they are generating. This weakness ties directly to her dopamine-driven attraction system. When she experiences novelty in a man through conversation, behavior, or even subtle dominance cues, her brain rewards her with excitement and desire. She subconsciously associates you with emotional highs that few men can create. But if you deliver predictability without tension or surprise, she begins to withdraw, seeking the emotional stimulation she craves elsewhere. Most men never see this coming. They blame her for pulling away instead of recognizing the pattern. The solution is deceptively simple. Master controlled unpredictability. You maintain your reliability, stability, and integrity, but you introduce subtle shifts that keep her emotionally engaged. A new perspective in conversation, an unexpected compliment, a spontaneous action. All of these create intrigue without instability. You don't need drama or chaos. You need psychological tension that captivates her attention and keeps her curiosity alive. Understanding this weakness is a turning point. Women are wired to subconsciously track who brings novelty without risk, excitement without fear. When you deliver this balance, she doesn't just notice. You dominate her mental and emotional focus. She begins seeking your presence, valuing your opinions, and craving the unique energy you bring into her life. This is the power most men never tap into, but once you understand it, it transforms everyday interactions into subtle, irresistible attraction. The sixth weakness is even more revealing, and it exposes a truth most men are blind to, even when they're fully involved with a woman. Grasp it, and you step into a level of psychological insight that few men ever reach. The sixth weakness, and perhaps the most dangerous for men who ignore it, is her vulnerability to emotional inconsistency. Women, like men, crave security and reliability, but what most men fail to grasp is how deeply they are subconsciously wired to notice fluctuations in emotional energy. A slight overreaction, a moment of doubt, or a change in tone can register in her mind as instability, even if the man thinks it's insignificant. These small cues trigger a cascade of insecurity, doubt, and testing, often without her consciously realizing it. Most men underestimate the power of emotional consistency, and it's this weakness that silently shapes her desire, trust, and loyalty. Here's the truth. Emotional consistency doesn't mean being robotic, predictable, or devoid of passion. It means managing your inner state so that your presence signals calm authority, reliability, and unwavering self-possession. Women are instinctively drawn to men who regulate their energy effortlessly, who do not get pulled into chaos, manipulation, or overreaction. When you embody this, she feels psychologically safe and emotionally compelled to engage with you at a deeper level. Conversely, inconsistent men create tension, anxiety, and distraction, turning attraction into frustration. This weakness is why most men lose women they care about the most. They allow minor frustrations, insecurities, or reactive impulses to leak into interactions. She notices, even subconsciously, and it erodes trust and attraction faster than any external competition ever could. But the man who masters this creates an unspoken gravitational pull. His calm presence becomes her anchor, his measured responses amplify her admiration, and his subtle emotional stability elevates him above every other option she encounters. The secret to using this knowledge isn't manipulation, it's mastery over self. Every pause, every tone, every word becomes intentional. You're no longer reacting to her, the environment, or fleeting emotions. You're guiding interactions with psychological precision. She unconsciously mirrors your energy, becomes more responsive, and increasingly values your presence. Emotional consistency is magnetic because it demonstrates control, strength, and reliability, the pillars of masculine influence that women are instinctively drawn to. Finally, the seventh weakness ties all of these together, her subconscious need for a man who can lead without dominating. Once you understand the first six weaknesses, the craving for validation, fear of loneliness, emotional storytelling, fear of being underestimated, craving unpredictability, and sensitivity to emotional inconsistency, you unlock the final key. You become the man who commands attention, desire, and loyalty without ever needing to chase or argue. Understanding these 7 hidden vulnerabilities doesn't just make you attractive. It positions you as irreplaceable, a presence she can't ignore, a man whose influence is silent but absolute. This is the knowledge few men ever attain. Grasp it, embody it, and you transform not only your relationships, but your entire approach to attraction, respect, and emotional power.